Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Governors and staff of the National League for Nursing, welcome to the 2024 National League for Nursing Education Summit. Woo! Our theme is a daring proposition, competency-based education. We are excited to have so many of you joining us. As the saying goes, everything's bigger in Texas. And that is true about our summit attendance this year. I am pleased to announce that we have over 1,300 attendees here. Outstanding. It is the most that we've had in almost 10 years. So welcome, y'all.
Thank you. And colleagues, this is such a great time for you to be at this summit. We are given this year's theme, competency-based education, will continue to guide the future direction of nursing education. That is why it is so important for you to attend our general sessions. Shortly, you will hear from a national expert on competency-based education and learning science. During the national faculty meeting, you'll gain knowledge and insights from a national consultant for schools of nursing that are working to integrate competency-based education across the curriculum. Many of the concurrent sessions include this sometimes challenging subject. So you see you're at the right event at the right time for key takeaways you can apply to your programs and classrooms. But before we begin, let me give it back to Patricia.
Thank you. But before we hear from those speakers, we would like to acknowledge some of the nursing education leaders and luminaries here at the summit. As NLN Chair, it is now my honor and privilege to recognize the members of the NLN Board of Governors, whose wisdom and guidance are truly appreciated and important. If you are present, please stand as I call your names. NLN Chair-elect Yolanda Van Riel, North Carolina Central University, and First Health of the Carolinas More Regional Hospital. Treasurer Mark Hand. East Carolina University College of Nursing. Secretary Tidra Smith, University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Nursing. On the Board of Governors, Audrey Beauvais, Egan School of Nursing and Health Studies, Fairfield University. Majida Elbana, College of Nursing at Qatar University. Anne Fink, Villanova University, M. Louise Fitzpatrick College of Nursing. Walter Bumpus, American Association of Community Colleges. Susie Kane, KFF, the Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation. Cheryl Hoying, Interim CEO. And last but not least, Mark Vogt, Galen College of Nursing. It is also truly my honor to acknowledge the NLN past presidents and NLN chairs whose expertise and leadership has always kept us on course. If you are present, please stand as I call your names. Elaine Tagliarini. Judy Halstead. Patricia Yoder-Wise. And Kathleen Poindexter. We are so very delighted to have you with us. Thank you. Now, I'm going to turn it back over to our president and phenomenal CEO, Dr. Beverly Malone, to recognize some incredibly valued supporters who helped make this year's summit possible. Bev.
Before I begin, colleagues, I just wanted to tell you I had to leave the stage for a few minutes to go get my glasses. We couldn't have hosted this year's summit without our sponsors. Please wait until we have acknowledged all of them before your applause. We first thank Nightingale College and Indiana University School of Nursing for being our platinum sponsors for this year's summit. In particular, Nightingale is sponsoring our opening reception, which takes place immediately after this session in the exhibit hall. And Indiana is sponsoring our prestigious closing gala and reception on Friday night, which follows the honors convocation. We next thank Ersdal Medical, Galen College of Nursing, and Walden University for being our diamond sponsors. Long-term sponsor, Duquesne University School of Nursing is once again supporting the summit at the silver level, along with Chamberlain University, Vanderbilt University, and Education Management Solutions. And as a special thank you to Chamberlain for sponsoring this afternoon's keynote address. Our bronze sponsor is Blueprint Nursing, and our summit champion sponsors are Wolters Kluwer, Spin Learning, and UWorld. Finally, a shout out to healthysimulations.com for their support of the NLN and of the summit. Could we have a round of applause, colleagues? Please be sure to stop by our sponsors' booths and learn about the important work that they are doing for nursing education. They are listed in the exhibitor directory you received during registration, or you can find them in the Summit app. Thank you all for your support of the Summit and of the NLN. Now, let's have another big round of applause because we cannot thank our sponsors enough for our sponsors. Next, on behalf of the NLN Foundation for Nursing Education and Chair Patrick Robinson, we extend our deepest thanks, as we always do, to all those who have contributed to the foundation throughout this year. Special thanks to the NLN Foundation Advisory Council, which includes, and would you please stand if you're in the room, and if not, we understand, Lynn Bilder of Jewish University, Kate Campbell of TrueLearn, Robbie Craven of F.A. Davis, and I know there are representatives from F.A. Davis. Robbie was not able to make it. Jason Dunn of Arizona College, Alf Christian Dibdahl of Ersdal Medical, Tim Iman of Life Work Education, Mary Jo Jurdy of United Health Group, and I know someone is representing her, Natalie Jones of ProLink, Rhonda Laws of Lecturio, Ken Lefkowitz of Hughes, Hubbard, and Reed, LLP, New York City, Andrew Lingo of Health Carousel, Matt Marino of EMS, Education Management Solutions, Ryan Ribera of SimX VR, Medical Simulation, Mikhail Snyder of Nightingale, Janet Smith Hill of SSM Health, Ward Ulmer of West Coast University, Mark Vogt of Galen College of Nursing, Abdel Youssef of Unitech College, and Malcolm Youngren of Pacific College. Plus, there are 2 members who have chosen to remain anonymous. And so if I told you, I might have to hurt you, so I can't reveal it. I would also like to thank them for their support of the 2024 NLN Academy for Nursing Education Fellows and the 2024 Centers of Excellence, and all benefactors of the NLN Foundation. Summit, thank you all. You can find that in the lobby. We would like to also thank our generous partners and sponsors for the following initiatives. And I'm going to ask if there are any representatives to please stand as I mention these initiatives. Our NLN Chamberlain University College of Nursing Center for the Science of Nursing Education, Dr. Karen Cox, President of Chamberlain University. NLN Walden University College of Nursing Institute for Social Determinants of Health and Social Change, Dr. Sue Buck, Chief Academic Officer, and my own dean, where I graduated from, Dr. Andrea Lindell, Vice Provost, College of Health Professions at Walden University. NLN Leadership Institute, Mark Vogt, CEO of Galen College of Nursing. Would you all please give our colleagues a round of applause? We celebrate them and their support for the NLN and for their continued commitment to making an outstanding difference in nursing education. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who is considering, making a donation. Sometimes you shouldn't think too long, colleagues. You should just do it. As well as those who will make a donation. And I want to encourage all those of that mind to stay focused and make that donation to the NLN Foundation during the summit. You can find ways to give online through the Summit app. I now, at this point, now that I have begged to my heart's content, and thanked you from the bottom of my heart, turn it back over into the competent hands of Dr. Patricia Sharpneck, our chair.
Thank you, Bev. I too would like to thank the many people who generously give of their time, energy, and talent to support the goals and the mission of the National League for Nursing. Thank you all so very much. Each year, I eagerly anticipate the NLN Summit as a time when leading educators in the nation gather together to shape the future of nursing education, explore new and innovative strategies that improve outcomes, and address topics that impact our profession. During this event, we refuel and reignite our passion to inspire, challenge, and nurture the potential that lies within each one of us. It is also a time when we can reflect on where we have been and where we need to be. This year's summit is no exception. You know that we live in a time of unprecedented change. The world is evolving at a pace never seen before, driven by technological advancements, shifting societal needs, and the ever-growing demand for specialized skills. These rapid changes require us to quickly pivot to meet the demands to prepare the nursing workforce for a healthcare world that we can only imagine. While our healthcare systems are rapidly changing, we continue to work in educational systems tethered to older teaching learning models that prioritize time spent in the classroom over mastery of knowledge and skills. While once effective, these traditional models of nursing education are now insufficient in preparing nurses for the complexities of modern healthcare. Are we truly preparing our students for the practice of the future, or are we merely guiding them on a path to a degree? Being here today at the summit is the first step toward change. We can reimagine nursing education and begin to integrate a competency-based approach that emphasizes real-world application, holistic review, and leadership development. We can make a difference by reorganizing how we might educate and empower the next generation of nurses. Competency-based educational strategies are transformative and challenge the foundation of our traditional educational systems. Competency-based education, or CBE, is not merely an alternative to the status quo. It is truly a bold envisioning of how we might prepare students for the complexities of the modern world. It is not merely a list of competencies students should acquire, or a checklist documenting completion of tasks. Competency-based education shifts the focus from what students might have been taught to what they can do with their knowledge. The measure of success is not the hours logged in the classroom, but rather the skills and the knowledge that the learner can demonstrate. By embracing this daring design, we can prepare graduates who are not only clinically competent, but adaptable, innovative, and ready to lead in a changing healthcare environment. Nurses educating using this model can be better prepared to address the complexities of patient care, collaborate effectively with the interprofessional team, and advocate for the health and well-being of all communities. Can we imagine an educational system where graduates are not only knowledgeable, but also fully equipped with the skills to thrive in our profession? I want you to dream of a world where education actually adapts to the learner rather than forcing the learner to adapt to the system. This is the world that competency-based education can help us build. This transformation in nursing education will have far-reaching influence. With established competency, patient outcomes can be improved, the efficiency and effectiveness of healthcare delivery enhanced, and the profession can reach new heights of leadership and influence. For CBE to reach its full potential, it requires courageous leadership. Courageous leadership to change how we design curricula, how we assess learning, and how we support our students. Let us shift beyond the traditional confines of nursing education and take on the mantle of competency-based education, just one step at a time. Let us create learning environments that are as dynamic and diverse as the students that we serve. Together, let us commit to an educational system that empowers learners to apply, innovate, and lead. The sessions you will attend at this summit will provide context to strategically close gaps in what learners are expected to know versus what they are expected to do. Dr. Jones-Schenk, a visionary and pioneer in competency-based instruction, is our keynote speaker. Our national faculty meeting will be led by Dr. Jerry Altmiller, and it will explore pathways to transition to CBE. During the Deborah Spunt lecture, Dr. Jared Kutzen will challenge our thoughts about CBE and its impact on patient outcomes. Your time at this summit will help you learn how to move from content-laden instruction to student learning outputs and develop approaches to modify the traditional role of faculty. Our time together will challenge your thinking, deepen your network, and introduce you to thought leaders and visionaries in CBE. A daring proposition. Let us push the boundaries of traditional education, innovate fearlessly, and revolutionize the way that we prepare nurses of tomorrow. Let us dare to dream big, to create immersive learning experiences that transcend the confines of the classroom, embrace technology as a tool for advancement, and foster a culture of transformation in our educational practices. Let us lead by example to model a commitment to lifelong learning and foster a community of collaboration and support among educators, students, and healthcare professionals. We must be confident enough to take the risk, to challenge traditional norms, and strive for excellence in teaching. We must break free from outdated teaching methods, cultivating a spirit of curiosity and exploration in our students, and empower them to think critically, adapt to change, and lead with courage in the face of uncertainty. Let us risk stepping out of our comfort zones, challenge the status quo, question long-standing traditions, and remain open to new ways of thinking and teaching. This is a call to action for all of us to embrace this summit's daring proposition and work together to create an educational system that is as dynamic and diverse as nursing itself. I believe that competency-based education is the future of nursing education, a framework where every student can reach their full potential, where learning is a lifelong journey, and where the ultimate measure of success is not just what we know, but what we can do with that knowledge. Together, let us transform nursing education and shape a future where excellence, compassion, and innovation are the hallmarks of our profession. I invite you, or should I dare you, to seize the opportunity to make a lasting impact on the future of nursing. Join me in this commitment to innovation, flexibility, and collaboration so that we are positioned to create a dynamic and responsive educational system that prepares nurses to meet the challenges of modern healthcare and to lead the profession. Are you ready to dare greatly, to push the boundaries, and inspire change? The future of nursing education is in our hands. Colleagues, let us rise to the challenge together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you kindly. Now it is time for some awards. First up, a special recognition this year for a lifetime of transformative excellence. Brother Ignatius Perkins, Dominican friar, serves as the coordinator of the Safeguarding Program, Dominican Friars, Eastern Province, and professor of nursing in the Department of Nursing at Providence College in Providence, Rhode Island. He earned master's and doctoral degrees in nursing and education from the Catholic University of America and Spalding University, to which he returned in 2019 for his second stint as chair of Spalding School of Nursing. There, he oversaw all graduate and undergraduate nursing programs. With 60 years of experience in nursing practice and education and healthcare ethics, Brother Perkins is widely published and known for his advocacy in assisting clinicians and supporting vulnerable members of society: the poor, homeless, elderly, victims and survivors of abuse, and the terminally ill, protecting and defending their dignity, freedom, and human flourishing using Pellegrino's healing relationship model in research, clinical practice, presentations, and publications. As a member of the NLN for nearly 50 years, Brother Perkins has served on the Board of Governors as an accreditation site visitor and on the NLN CNEA, and in many, many other key roles, both officially and unofficially. It is truly my honor to present to Brother Perkins the newly created once-in-a-generation NLN Lifetime Achievement for a Transformative Excellence Award. Please join me in honoring Brother Perkins.
It is indeed an extraordinary privilege to receive this prestigious recognition from the National League for Nursing. These past 5 decades of membership in the League has served as significant in both my personal and professional development. As architects of healing and hope, embracing and giving life to the League's core values of caring, integrity, diversity, inclusion, and excellence, in transforming our healthcare system and bringing healing and hope to a wounded world, could only have been achieved by collaborating with one another and our healthcare practice partners in assuring that the ultimate telos is to see that nursing remains the work of the heart, and that what I have described elsewhere as the trilogy of nursing, protecting and defending human dignity, freedom, and human flourishing, established through the mission and core values of the National League for Nursing, we as members continue to provide hope and healing to the sick and bring them to wellness. We celebrate the richness of our vocation, indeed the work of the heart, in caring with compassion, especially to the unwanted, the unloved, those who have no place to lay their heads at night, to those near the end of their lives, the differently abled, those who have been harmed by others, and to our colleagues. Let us also honor those who have gone before us and humbled us through their moral courage as they brought the healing and hope and peace to the world through the gifts of the art and science of nursing. We honor and celebrate all nurses who continue to transform human life so that the ineradicable core values of the League will lead one another, our colleagues, our families, our communities, and our world to an enduring peace. As we continue to bring healing and hope to the world, we ask for God's blessing on each of us and our colleagues with the blessing of our healing hands. These are our hands of compassion. These are our hands of knowledge and skill. These are our hands of human touch, comfort, and love. These are our hands of the spirit of human life. These are our hands that support and assure hope. These are our hands that protect human dignity, integrity, and diversity. These are our hands that defend freedom, justice, and inclusion. These are our hands that promote human flourishing. These are our hands that bring an enduring peace to our world. These are our hands that accompany those at the beginning and then near the end of life. These are our hands that care for the colleagues who are often alone suffering and weeping because they were unable to reverse the natural course of the disease. These are our hands that care for the wounded healers in our midst. These are our hands that heal and lift the human spirit, the very core and very of nursing and the core values of the National League for Nursing for all time. These are our hands that dare to pause, to be present, to listen, and to hear the suffering of others. Finally, come, good and loving Creator, show us your beauty reflected in every person in our world, so that we may discover anew that every person is unique and important, and every person is necessary. We are but different faces of the one humanity that you so love. Amen. Thank you for your noble efforts, the National League for Nursing, in helping me become who I am. Thank you.
Wow. Next, I am pleased to recognize true, extraordinary NLN President Award winners this year. The NLN President's Award honors leaders in healthcare who are bright and shining examples of the NLN core values of caring, integrity, diversity and inclusion, and excellence. These are individuals who have dedicated their life's work to advancing the health of the nation and the global community. Our first awardee is an expert in regulatory policy in nursing and healthcare. Dr. Marianne Alexander serves as Chief Officer of Nursing Regulation for NCSBN, the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, and is Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Nursing Regulation. Prior to her role at NCSBN, Dr. Alexander was the Executive Officer of the Illinois Board of Nursing. She was also an advanced practice registered nurse and assistant professor at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. A fellow in the highly respected American Academy of Nursing, she has authored many articles and book chapters, won several national research awards, and has given numerous presentations before national and international audiences. And frankly, I got to know Dr. Alexander long ago when I first became the president of a board of nursing, and I can tell you firsthand, it has truly been an honor and a privilege to work with her collaboratively in nursing regulation. Please join me in welcoming President's Award winner, Dr. Marianne Alexander.
Thank you so much for this prestigious award. I am deeply honored. And it is so meaningful for me to receive this award from the president of an organization dedicated to excellence in nursing education. I would not be standing here at this moment were it not for the nursing educators that taught me, mentored me, and inspired me throughout my entire career. The work you all do is so important for so many reasons. Dr. Sharpneck, thank you for this award and for your outstanding leadership in both education and regulation. Dr. Malone, you have been an inspiration to me since the day I met you. I also have to acknowledge my staff in nursing regulation who have been on this journey with me. Their support and their hard work has made so much possible. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful award, and I look forward to continuing our work together, ensuring we have a nursing workforce that is inclusive, diverse, competent, and prepared for the challenges of the future. Thank you.
Okay, another one. On behalf of the NLN board and the entire NLN family, congratulations, Mary Ann. Now I'd like to introduce our second President's Award winner, Dr. Ernest J. Grant. Internationally recognized as a specialist in burn care and fire safety, Dr. Ernest J. Grant came to national attention for his work treating burn victims from the World Trade Center attack in 2001. That earned him the Nurse of the Year Award, presented in 2002 by President George W. Bush. Today, the Vice Dean for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging at the Duke University School of Nursing, Dr. Grant is also the immediate past president of ANA, the American Nurses Association. As a nurse educator with more than 30 years of experience in nursing, Dr. Grant also currently serves as adjunct faculty for UNC Chapel Hill School of Nursing, where he works with undergraduate and graduate nursing students in the classroom and clinical settings. In 2011, he was inducted as a fellow into the prestigious American Academy of Nursing. Dr. Grant holds a BSN degree from North Carolina Central University and an MSN and PhD degrees from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And I have to add, I'm fortunate enough to have gotten to know both of these individuals. I consider Dr. Grant the gentle giant, but I had the privilege, again, of working with him on Tri-Council, and his leadership, his inclusivity, his kindness, his ability to make everyone around him look smart when it's all his ideas has always impressed me, and I am truly blessed to have gotten to know him. So please join me in welcoming President's Award winner, Dr. Ernest J. Grant.
I have to get out my spectacles. And then start by saying I'd like to thank the Academy of Motion Pictures. Oh, wrong group. I'd like to say thank you to Madam President and Madam Chair. It has been a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm both honored and humbled to be the recipient of the President's Award and to join past recipients whom I have long admired and respected. Thank you to the NLN Board of Directors and others involved in my selection. Being recognized for my work to promote quality care, advocacy, and diversity and inclusion is especially rewarding. When I first was elected as president of the ANA, one of my top priorities was to promote efforts that would increase diversity in nursing. I've long believed that healthcare professionals need to better reflect the diversity of the patients for whom we care. The more diverse the nursing professionals are, the more effectively we can be in helping to help out society address the growing racial disparities in healthcare and in health outcomes. It means higher quality care to patients. And one of the ways in which we can do that is to recruit and educate more diverse individuals into the nursing profession. At a time when Americans are in a grip of both the aftermath of a pandemic and a national unrest, overcoming health disparities and finding equality in healthcare can never be more critical. As health professionals, we have the opportunity to speak with one strong voice as leaders, educators, and to role model the compassion and the empathy of our patients, families, and our communities. Our voice is our commitment to making a difference in all that we do for those that we serve. I commend the NLN for your continued dedication to serving the public and the nursing profession by being the voice for nursing education and ensuring that nursing education builds a strong and more diverse nursing workforce and advocating health policy. Together, organizations like the NLN have the power to lead constructive and lasting change. To the rest of this year's Academy inductees and awardee recipients, I salute you. Each of you have made tremendous contributions to improve nursing education, nursing care, advance health equity, and to promote the nursing profession, and it is a privilege to sit among each illustrious colleagues. Finally, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to those men and women whose shoulders that I stand on that have lifted me up on so many levels, particularly Madam President and Chief Executive Officer. I thank my colleagues at the Duke School of Nursing for their continued support and belief in the work of ensuring that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is felt by all. I also thank those with whom I have worked with alongside this journey. You have played a significant role in making me to be the individual that I am. Thank you again for this esteemed honor, and my sincerest congratulations to my fellow awardees. Thank you.
I think it's you. It's you.
Congratulations again to Mary Ann and to Ernest for their well-earned recognition as NLN President's Award winners. And thank you, as always, to our esteemed chair, NLN Chair, Dr. Patricia Sharpneck, and the entire Board of Governors. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, I wanted to have a moment of privilege to introduce a new colleague to the NLN family. ASIN, our accreditation sisters, Dr. Kathy Chappell, would you please stand and be recognized and welcome to the NLN family. Now I have another opportunity. I'm still glowing over the awards. I can't tell you how much Brother Mary Ann and Ernest mean to me on a personal basis. These are my heroes. I thank you for all you've done throughout my career. Now it's my pleasure to introduce another colleague who's had an effect on my life, and that's our keynote speaker, Dr. Jan Jones-Schenk, Executive Dean Emeritus of the Michael O. Levitt School of Health at Western Governors University, for her address on competency-based education. Things for the journey, what nurse educators know. The Levitt School of Health is entirely competency-based and offers graduate and undergraduate degrees in nursing and the health professions. During her tenure, Dr. Jones-Schenk facilitated over 95,000 graduates. She was also the architect of the Institute for Advancing Health Value, including the design of certificates for value-based care and population health equity. Dr. Jones-Schenk, Jan as I call her, has served on the boards of the American Nurses Association, Park City Hospital, Association for Leadership Science in Nursing, and National Education Progression in Nursing, and Aquifer, a medical education technology company. She is also the past president of the ANCC, the American Nurses Credentialing Center. Jan is a fellow of the Academy of Associate Degree Nursing and a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. In 2022, she too was honored by the NLN with the prestigious President's Award for Innovation in Nursing Education. She is associate editor for the monthly leadership column for the Journal of Continuing Education in Nursing. Colleagues, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Jan Jones-Schenk.
Wow, there's a lot of you out here. I hear around 1,300. Simulation and competency-based education are the two most powerful innovations in nursing education in the past 15 years. In point of fact, it was 15 years ago I was at this meeting in a simulation session discussing how we were implementing simulation as an assessment tool for CBE. The gasps from the audience were audible. At that time, there were very strong feelings about how simulation could and should be used, and assessment was not one of them. Colleagues and friends, we've had some problems in nursing education. For the last several years, our colleagues in practice have been raising the alarm that there's a gap between our perceptions of student preparation at graduation and what they see in new graduate practice. More recently, we've come to realize that our established practices for admission, testing, and even teaching contain structural barriers, including racism and cultural and linguistic barriers, that have prevented us from educating a diverse nursing workforce to serve our increasingly culturally and ethnically diverse populations. We've seen growth in health disparities, increases in maternal mortality. We're experiencing a growing faculty shortage with insufficient salaries, growing dissatisfaction, declining full-time faculty positions. Clinical teaching roles are the most undervalued and thus the most difficult to fill. On the plus side, we've seen solutions in the form of increased research on the efficacy of simulation for clinical education and the expansion of its use. The development of nursing residencies has responded to the challenges of the increased complexity of roles for new nurses entering practice. Changes in admission criteria and a more investigative approach to rooting out implicit bias in teaching and learning and assessment of students is gaining traction. The licensure exam has refocused its attention for the evaluation of clinical decision-making as its core emphasis. And while these are all welcome changes that are addressing known challenges, the actual evolution of teaching and learning is largely unchanged in nursing education practice. Now's the time for those of us who lead in the facilitation of learning to demonstrate our commitment to transforming our practice using new methods for learning and assessing learning. Actually, truth be told, competency-based education, or CBE, is not new to nursing. Our history in nursing education has always been tied to competency. Preparing nurses for practice has been our long-standing social pledge. But along the way, some things got reframed in ways that diverted us from this essential core. As we focus more on curricular content, we focus less on knowledge, skills, and abilities essential for the formation of competent practitioners. As a practice profession, we value the thinking in practice and the variations of the human experience that present in unexpected and unpredictable ways. We've begun to see that we need to flip our focus with increased attention on learner skills and competency, in some ways returning to our roots, where competency in practice was our long-held core. The National League for Nursing, as a leader in nursing education, led in this early dialogue when they transformed the standards for nurse educators articulated in their 2016 nursing education standards. Soon after that, the National Council of State Boards of Nursing began its efforts to transform measurements for nurse licensure. In 2019, the American Association of Colleges of Nursing issued their new vision for a transition to competency-based education for all nursing programs within 5 years. Earlier this year, and I had the pleasure to serve with this group, the NLN published its strategic vision for competency-based education. Here's the summary of that vision. It's kind of long, so bear with me. CBE holds promise for being able to lift and shift education beyond traditions of credit hours, clinical hours, and grades to a new, more fluid future of confident, competent, new graduate nurses at all levels of entry and practice who will feel prepared and be prepared to persist in high-quality nursing practice across their careers. That's a lot of information in a big, long sentence, so let's unpack it a little bit, see what it means. The first part takes on some long-standing academic traditions that might make for some audible gasps here today. Credit hours, clinical hours, and grades are long-standing conventions of academic nursing education. The credit hour came to us from early work to establish a Carnegie unit, a measurable, consistent unit to ensure that educational institutions followed some consistent framework in order to be called post-secondary university or college. This unit was defined by time in the year 1906. Yeah, things have changed. It was a time when some sort of standard was needed, and it was a time, and time was a thing we knew how to measure. We could measure time. That original metric was defined as the amount of time a student studies a subject with a teacher. Just think about that for a minute. Nothing about mastery, nothing about learning. In fact, the goal of this original metric was to measure how faculty engage as part of a larger goal to support faculty with a retirement option and a career path. Now, certainly, that's important and worthy, but it's not about learning. It was also a method for building university budgets. And I will come back to this notion of budgets as drivers in a few minutes. As long ago as the 1960s, this metric was being called into question as it has been used as a measure of the quality of learning when it was designed really only as a measure of a student's exposure to content. That does not measure learning. Clinical hours were conceived using the same flawed logic. Hours of time spent being exposed to clinical experience became a measure for everything from the quality of a nursing program, accreditation, to the requirements for individuals to sit for the licensure exam. Now, we all know the incredible variability of clinical hours as a measure. Students don't benefit from this definition, as once again, it says nothing about learning. In fact, I propose that it is the variability in clinical hours that ultimately helped us adopt and embrace simulation as a more relevant method to ensure basic clinical skills and even advanced competencies. Let me reiterate, simulation is a critical tool for developing and measuring advanced competencies. And thank God we're here now today, not gasping about that. As to the final part of this first sentence, grades, I have a lot to say about that. Grades, like GPA, are false measures. Oh, I heard an audible gasp. For many years, grades have been calculated using a norm referenced system, where the highest grade is the one that is the highest in a group of students, norm referencing, also called grading on the curve. Norm reference grading does not measure mastery, since the measurement is reflective of what the group knows, and in fact, the most knowledgeable person within the group sets the high standard, and a bell curve sets the norm. Grading on a curve means adjusting student scores after an assignment. The idea of the curve goes back to a bell curve, right? In a typical class, professors can expect the majority of grades to be here, the top of the bell curve, and that's where the class average is, and there's going to be a smaller number of A's over here and a smaller number of failing grades over here. So therefore, an A or a 4.0 grade can mean that the best person in the group knew 70% of the material and could easily show a C to be 30 to 40% of the material is known by the majority of students in the norming group. Grades are a statistical distribution of how a group of students perform on a given exam. And don't even get me started on GPA. GPA is the average of those grades. Thus, my favorite hashtag, #GPA is fake news. Math doesn't get any fuzzier than that. This fuzzy math doesn't even consider the variability of the quality of the exam and what it purports to measure. Not every exam is well constructed. We know this. We know that many exams have built-in bias and do not actually measure learning. Norm grading is a form of bias. In so many ways, our traditional academic metrics are flawed, biased, and do not focus on student outcomes. Even the president of the Carnegie Foundation recognizes the flaws, and in 2022, he said, "It seems past time to think about how do you build a legitimately outcomes-based system." Let's examine the next part of the statement. A new, more fluid future of confident, competent, new graduate nurses at all levels of entry and practice. Now, not all confident people are competent. But there is a strong correlation between competence and confidence. Competence and confidence. 2 points to consider here. Confidence alone is not enough. In 1999, Dunning-Kruger identified a phenomena, the Dunning-Kruger phenomena, where those who are overconfident in their ability may not actually be the top performers. whereas those who believe they are average or even slightly below often demonstrate greater skill. They were describing something we see sometimes with our students who are overconfident but project a strong presence or charisma that can translate into a bias about their actual abilities. That is why the competence-confidence loop is a critical aspect of learning, particularly in clinical practice. If confidence is our belief we can do something, then competence is the ability to actually do the thing. And the confidence-competence loop, these two things are connected. It means if we believe we can do something, we'll actually take action to do it, which increases our competence, which then increases our confidence, which allows us to take more action. And it supports the idea of all levels of practice being intertwined in such a way that competence accelerates advancement. Now we come to the final part of the vision statement. Individuals who will feel prepared and will be prepared to persist in high-quality nursing practice across their careers. This is a fundamental part of our job as educators. It's not enough to prepare nurses to enter practice. We have to consider and take seriously what knowledge, skills, and abilities nurses will need to persist in high-quality practice across their careers. I would go a step further and say we cannot accept the current reality of nurses leaving practice after 3 years. Now, we can blame the practice environments. We can blame our politics. We can blame our healthcare delivery system, our higher ed system, economic and social demands. But this blaming weakens us as educators by diminishing our accountability. We need to cast our vision of competency and learning to include the kinds of realities our grads will face and consider the kinds of competencies that will arm them for the future. How do they protect their own personal vision of care and sustain joy in practice? These are parts of the necessary competencies we must define. I recently had a chance to collaborate on a column for JCEN with a physician friend of mine I've known for 40 years. He had a life-threatening experience, and he woke up in a trauma ICU, terrified, in pain, and fearful for his future. A nurse cared for him on one shift, and that nurse changed his life. I can't really describe what she did, but her approach to practice activated him to a level of positive engagement that accelerated his healing. She had a healing practice, a patient activation practice, a practice that was happy and brought her joy and satisfaction and made him laugh, while giving him a new skill of reframing his thoughts to make him think about his journey to health in new ways. We worked together to write a story about healing and what it was for him, but the story was really about that nurse and other nurses who have the competence of healing. And how do we break that down? How do we create those competency statements? I submit to you that as difficult as that may be, and it may sound very difficult, that's our challenge in addressing persistence in high-quality practice across a career. Competency-based education focuses on the endpoint. It relies on well-articulated, measurable descriptions of the desired competencies and recognizes that not all learners come with the same abilities and not all learners have the same learning pace in learning different things. Unlike the mechanized models of the past where learning was measured by what could be achieved within a specific time frame, CBE considers that competency is the standard, and the time it takes is the learner variable. That concept reframes how we think about teaching and learning, and it considers a level of individual support that has to be built into systems that currently may not exist. It means that instead of building mounds of curriculum, reading, lectures, and the like, we need to be so clear with our competencies and how they will be assessed that learners will have full transparency and accountability for their own outcomes. No more, will this be on the test moments. Because what it means to prove competency is apparent and available to all learners. Multiple assessments will be needed. The learning is in the process of mastery, not mastery itself. Assessments are as critical as competencies, and they must be aligned and developed concurrently. It's truly the growth mindset of learning that has eluded us for so long. Where systems like academic calendar and set testing timeframes and standardized methods of the past have actually undermined the complexity, individuality, and exquisite beauty of learning. In CBE, in its highest and best form, it holds the learner at the center of all decisions. It means that the decisions about how learners are treated, tested, communicated with, advanced, evaluated, literally all decisions related to the learner journey and actual learning are the first thing that is considered. The structures of the organization must be redesigned with the learner in mind if we are able to fully transform higher education to meet the needs of contemporary society. Being student or learner-centered isn't a new concept, but it hasn't truly been the central focus in higher ed. Like in healthcare, in this nation, where patient-centered care is often cited as a feature, it is secondary to finances, market share, and new technology. Our colleagues in healthcare are not making all decisions first and foremost based on how to heal and advance the health and wellness of our communities. It's a great goal. We all believe in it. But sad to say, this goal is secondary to ensuring the financial health of the organization first. Yes, I do understand, no money, no mission, I've heard it. But does that mean intrinsically that we cannot provide high quality, safe, patient-centered health and health care without making finances our first decision point? I don't believe it. Just because that is the current standard operating procedure doesn't mean it is patient-centered or that it cannot become something more focused on healing, health, and wellness. By the way, I don't offer this generalization without consideration of some innovative practice sites that are actually trying to change this dynamic, but sadly, they're not the norm. Now let's apply the same scrutiny to our area, nursing education. If our primary goal is to educate nurses who are competent, confident, reflective of the diverse communities nurses serve, and will facilitate healing in a lifelong career, what might we do differently? If we are turning away qualified applicants, if learners are not completing their programs, including being dropped, or are leaving nursing practice altogether within 3 years of graduation, do we think that's okay? No. Maybe it's not possible to change every structure in your organization, but what can you change? If you agree that some of the outcomes we've delivered need to be better, what barriers do you see in your own systems that can be changed? Are you ready to interrogate your learning environment to see what doesn't primarily support learning and learners, and begin the work to reform those things? CBE provides a new framework for measuring learning, measuring not time, but competency. If you could make nursing education available to more people, people who are perhaps not currently present in your learner demographics, what would it take to do that? What if a learner's advancement from course to course was more fluidly defined by competencies rather than semester hours? Can you think of ways to do this? There are ways. What if learner assessments weren't one and done? We know mastery requires repetition. Not practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. How can we expose learners to more ways to practice and master competencies? To be clear, I'm not only talking about skills here. I'm talking about complex competencies that include high executive functions like advocacy, family intervention, clinical detection and prediction, interprofessional collaboration, and healing. And maybe you can't see immediate ways to build CBE into your program, so a different kind of creativity could be required. In fact, creativity requires limits to fulfill its full potential. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it is through limits that creativity flourishes. Picasso said, "Art is the elimination of the unnecessary." So creativity can and does thrive under constriction. But the good news is it can be great fun and deeply satisfying. And as Maya Angelou has said, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. So maybe you work in new ways with other schools and programs to leverage strengths and weaknesses in pressing forward on your CBE journey. Maybe you seek and use vendors differently. Maybe you barter with other partners to use what they have in exchange for what you have. Maybe you collaborate within your own faculty groups in the development of competencies and assessments in ways you've not done before. Maybe you use the enhanced learner activation that CBE can offer to use learner design ideas for achieving mastery. CBE is a strong framework for learning, but its future success will come from the creativity of faculty who look at learning through a new lens, seeing possibilities and exciting new futures. So as we face this challenge, the challenge to transform learning and teaching with some intrepidation, as with all change, we have to abandon some ways of thinking and doing to allow for new ones. While CBE will require us to learn new things and consider doing things differently, I believe all of us in nursing education share key beliefs that will become essential tools for our change journey. Here is what I believe nurse educators know, and having these things to guide us will make our journey better. We know that all students do not learn in the same way or even on the same schedule. We know that ability and capability to learn is present in thousands of individuals who've not had access to the opportunity to learn nursing. We know that the executive level skills of clinical decision making and healing activation are at the very top of our learners' abilities, but skills learned along the way, growing and achieving along a learning pathway, build confidence and competence, and that is learner activation. We know that culturally diverse learner groups help teach each other nuances of individuality and shine lights on implicit bias. We know that competence in social and emotional aspects of nursing practice bring improved patient outcomes and enhanced joy in the human interaction that is nursing. We know that competence and its associated camaraderie propagate joy and success in practice, which are key ingredients for a fulfilling and long-lasting career. We know that if we collaborate with our practice partners to develop the descriptions of essential competencies, we can develop new nurses who will have those competencies. We know that as we hone our abilities as educators to envision, design, and communicate the essential competencies of nursing practice, our learners will thrive and succeed. We know that our camaraderie with each other and our shared vision for nursing education enhances our own practice joy, our ability to guide change, and strengthen our commitment to better nursing education. We're all going to do that this week. We know that we can change the direction of health disparities in this country through our work as nursing educators. We know that facilitating learning is one of the highest callings, and the privilege of developing new nurses is our greatest treasure. We know that the future of nursing education reform and transformation is in our hands. And in its future state, diverse learners will thrive, nursing faculty will realize satisfaction in their roles as learning facilitators, employers will embrace and appreciate their new nursing workforce, and patients will benefit from nurse competency, advocacy, and compassionate care. I believe CBE can provide you all with an exciting new framework for your innovations in learning. The NLN strategic vision for CBE details how it differs from traditional academic learning models and describes its key features. There is structure to it that is not equivocal. But as we've discussed here today, structure can actually generate and stimulate creativity. Over the next few days, as you attend your meetings, one or some of you may step to the mic and present an idea that generates audible gasps. Will you listen? Will you stay curious? Will you be ready to set aside what you are comfortable with and ask, could this help my learners? I told you what I think nurse educators know, and in that list is the thread of innovation and creativity that resides in each of you. Thank you.
I've known Dr. Jan Jones-Schenk for several decades, and when you know someone for a long, we were babes. When you know someone for a long time, you forget how brilliant they are. I mean, they're just your friend, and so you kind of downplay their brilliance. In fact, you may forget it. And today she reminded me of the incredible gift that she brings to nursing and to healthcare, and how she can break it down in bite-sized pieces for those of us who can't take the big pieces all at once. Thank you, Dr. Jan Jones-Schenk, from your admirer and friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for this privilege. What an honor. What an honor.
Next, I'm on a roll. I mean, I get to introduce another absolutely unbelievable speaker and presenter, another plenary speaker, and this is Dr. Hege, Langli, Ersdal, who will talk about how simulation saves lives. So you see, it's a continuation. Since 2009, Dr. Ersdal has been the principal investigator of several large international research and development projects related to the birth and implementation of simulation-based learning to improve quality of care and patient outcomes, both in low and high resource settings. Dr. Ersdal is a professor in simulation and global health at Stavanger University Hospital and University of Stavanger with a PhD in international health from the University of Oslo, Norway. She is a trained anesthesiologist and leader of the critical care and anesthesiology research group in Stavanger, Norway. In the Safer Births program, she has supervised 16 completed PhDs and is currently supervising around 20 PhDs from both low and high income countries. She has published around 130 research papers, who's counting, in peer-reviewed international journals. Now let's see some of the importance and impact of her work.
Every year, 300,000 women die during pregnancy and childbirth. Almost 3 million babies die during or soon after birth. Nearly all of these deaths occur in developing countries. This kind of inequity is found in no other area of healthcare. Most of these deaths could be prevented if birth attendants around the world had the necessary skills and competencies to manage life-threatening complications around the time of birth. The Mama Natalie birthing simulator was developed to help prevent the leading cause of maternal death, postpartum hemorrhage. The new simulator, Mama Birthie, addresses normal births as well as common complications. For each Mama Natalie and Mama Birthie purchased through Ersdal Medical for use in high-income countries, one will be donated to a low-income country.
The NLN has already helped us provide over 4,000 birthing simulators to low-resource settings. These have been used to train thousands and thousands of birth attendants. And can you imagine if they, as a result of this, could save one more life, each of those birth attendants?
We'd like to make an even bigger impact. We believe you can help. Your training can make a difference.
Each and every one of us is tied to a community of colleagues who are dedicated to healing, promotion of health, hope, and saving lives. By joining the Ersdal program, Buy One, Gift One, we all have the opportunity to make the difference in the lives of others in developing countries who share the same values we do, but lack the resources. Let's make that difference.
Colleagues, you may have heard that the NLN helped provide 4,000 birthing simulators. Well, colleagues, this video is from 2017, and I'm proud to say, since that time, the number has grown to more than 14,000 birthing simulators donated. What a wonderful history of support. So with that in mind, it is my privilege to ask you to please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Ersdal. Please take the stage, Dr. Ersdal.
Wow. Thank you. That's the most overwhelming introduction I ever had, I believe. And what an honor to be here today and present to you how simulation can save lives as a very nice follow-up to the former excellent keynote presentation. It is about dedication and willingness to build systems to provide relevant and effective training. Looking at you, I think, that are here today, I think you are dedicated. And I guess that most of you also had that moment in time when you decided that you wanted to work in healthcare. I had mine. When I was 7 years old, it was like a lightning bolt feeling one evening, and I just knew that I should work to help mothers and babies in Africa. But I didn't have a clue on how to do that, so I asked the wisest man I knew at the time, my father, of course, what can I do to help? And he said, be a doctor. He's not at all a doctor himself, so maybe he had his own agenda. But 20 years later, I am to become a doctor, and I am also to become a mother for my first child. The pregnancy and the labor was normal, but when she came out, she struggled with breathing. And she had to be resuscitated several times, and it was terrifying to me. But she got the care she needed from dedicated nurses and doctors, and she survived. Mia was born in Norway, maybe one of the safest places on earth to be born. But not all babies and not all mothers are so happy, lucky. Actually, the day of birth in many places of the world is the most dangerous day in one's life. And today, 6,000 newborns will die. And 800 women will die because of complications related to childbirth, today and every day. And the really sad thing is that most of these deaths are preventable with very basic, easy steps. Not a lot of fancy stuff. Most of these deaths also occur in low and middle income countries. So you may think that this is just a problem in these countries, but it's not. And as the former keynote speaker also said, here is a graph presenting pregnancy-related mortality in your country, the United States. And you see how it is increasing. From 2020 to 21, there has been a 40% increase. And the situation is most dire for Black women, who has a 3 to 4 times higher risk of dying related to pregnancy and childbirth than white women. Furthermore, it is estimated that almost 80% of these deaths are preventable, again, with basic, simple actions, but they have to be timely. Because birth-related emergencies are just that. They are emergencies, and they need to be tackled quite immediately If not, they become life-threatening. So it means that the bedside provider really must have the competence to handle, to understand the situation and do the right things. Here is an example of a birth-related emergency. This baby was born severely asphyxiated. He is not able to start breathing on his own, and he will die within minutes unless someone, very often a nurse midwife, can start effective ventilation quickly. 15 years ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics decided that they wanted to help. So they developed the Helping Babies Breathe training program, which has now trained millions of healthcare workers around the world. As you see, the materials is very visual and intuitive, so that most of the time can be dedicated to hands-on simulation-based training. Furthermore, the tools are low cost and easy to carry, and that makes scalability possible, and also the materials can be left behind and provide refresher training. Based on the success of the Helping Babies Breathe program, a similar Helping Mothers Survive Bleeding After Birth program was developed by JPAGO with partners to address the leading cause of maternal deaths, that is postpartum bleeding. It might seem obvious now, but at the time these programs, curriculums were groundbreaking in that they were so visual and that they were focusing on simulation-based training, and that they were in a way made to facilitate low-dose, high-frequency refresher training. You might also think that these algorithms or guidelines are too simple for our high-resource settings. In my experience, working as an anesthesiologist, I didn't feel that. Actually, I was on call and responsible for handling both newborn and obstetric emergency situations, and I felt unsure again and again because I knew the urgency in these situations. And I felt it was so difficult to remember the text-heavy, complicated algorithms that we had in Europe. So I felt relieved when I could visually see the Helping Babies Breathe guidelines. So when Helping Babies Breathe was ready to be launched in 2009, we started the Safer Births project at Haydom Lutheran Hospital in rural Tanzania to study the effects of Helping Mothers Survive and Helping Babies Breathe training. We started by giving all the midwives in the ward a one-day Helping Babies Breathe course. We tested them before that one-day course, and we tested them 7 months after the course. And their simulated skills improved from 40% to 80% using typical OSCEs. That was very good. However, the same providers, midwives, did not change their practice with the babies over the same 7 months. And we saw no reduction in newborn mortality. So we asked them, why? I mean, you can simulate that you have the proper skills. Why doesn't it translate into where it is most needed in the real setting? What can we do to help? We did not tell them what to do. We asked them, what do you need? And they said, we want to train more frequently, and we have to train within the real setting. We must know that we are supported by our leaders. And everyone must train, even or especially the senior midwives, because those are the ones in a way holding or leading the culture within the ward. So we tried that. We set up a training corner within the labor ward for frequent low-dose training, skills training, and after only a couple of weeks, we started to see the difference in clinical care, improved performance, and a reduction in mortality. Actually, it was a 25% reduction in assumed fresh stillbirths and a 40 to 80% reduction in newborn deaths. That was great. I agree with you. However, we saw that the providers were still struggling with fetal and newborn heart rate monitoring and also mastery of bag mask ventilation. So together with the nurses at HIDOM and Ersdal Global Health and several Tanzanian researchers, we started to develop new innovations for training and new clinical tools. And here you see the neonatally live for newborn ventilation skill training. You see Moyo for fetal heart rate assessment, Neobeat for more rapid and accurate newborn heart rate assessment, and the upright resuscitator that is more easy to actually ventilate the baby with. However, no new tools will help anyone unless the provider knows when to use it and how to best use it. And that is illustrated in this graph from HIDOM, showing additional newborn lives saved over time. And you see every time the graph is increasing means that there are more babies saved. When there is a dip, more babies die. And we found that there was a strong, significant correlation between the frequency of ongoing training and increasing lives saved. And opposite, less training resulted in more deaths. And here you see there is a kind of flat period with no improvement in lives saved around 2015. And that was the time when we were actually testing all the new devices. And then we had less focus on training. We realized that we had to renew focus on training, and at the same time we trained local facilitators at HIDOM to really motivate and to lead the trainings, and you see how the graph is steeply increasing because of the training. So over these few years at HIDOM Hospital, with 4,000 to 5,000 births per year, 250 more lives were saved because of frequent Helping Babies Breathe simulation training. Lives like Danieli. I think that the power of safer births is the iterative processes, and that everything we do is based on research evidence. I also think that it is the largest day of birth study ever conducted, with more than 400,000 births observed and analyzed. And as you said, 130, 140 papers published. And we have developed multiple new innovations and training strategies. And we have sites in both low and high income settings, complementing each other, but also highlighting the similarities and the common challenges that we face. 4 or 5 years back, we had learned a lot about what we could do to help, but we realized that there was not one single bullet. we had to merge, to put all of it together in a bundle. And then we started the Safer Births Bundle of Care.
Safer Births Bundle of Care is a program to improve quality of care on the day of birth. It addresses the leading causes of maternal and newborn mortality with a bundle of clinical and training innovations. Use of data and regular simulation training enables continuous quality improvement. And strong ownership by the Ministry of Health ensures the program can be sustained over time. Safer Births is based on 12 years of research and collaboration, resulting in more than 100 published papers. If scaled up nationally in Tanzania, the Safer Births Bundle of Care could help save 25,000 more lives every year.
So, as you have seen, the bundle consists of 4 main components. The first, our new simulation-based innovation based on helping babies breathe and helping mothers survive curriculums. The clinical innovations for better monitoring and ventilation of newborns. And our framework of continuous quality improvement based on the circular learning, which I will show you later. The trained facilitator is the core of driving this continuous quality improvement. And then, to ensure scalability and sustainability, we knew that we had to work closely with the Ministry of Health in Tanzania. And then, to create a kind of basis for innovation to scale program and to actually move from donorship to ownership. I don't know about you, but I think many of you have experienced that very good projects, they just stop when the project time and the funding is over. So it was crucial for us to make that strong collaboration with the Ministry of Health and make sure that all our innovations and plans were integrated within their national health system. We believed in the program, the Ministry of Health started to believe in the program, and then we actually got the World Bank to believe in the program, and we won a $5 million award to actually scale it to the 5 maybe most poorest region in Tanzania, including 30 hospitals and 300,000 births over a 3-year period. We hypothesized that our intervention would reduce fresh stillbirths by 25%, newborn deaths by 50%, and maternal deaths by 10%. When we started the scale-up, we used a lot of time on training national and local facilitators using the SimBegin educational program to become good facilitators for simulations. These facilitators are the driver of the culture change. They are responsible to motivate their own healthcare workers within their own facility, and they are leading the team simulations and the reflective debriefings. And that is what it takes to start decreasing the existing culture of blame and shame. The facilitators use their local data from both clinical practice and training, link that to see where are the identified gaps and how should we target the training. The Safer Births tool automatically collect and store data from both clinical care and from training and send it to a secure server where it is easily accessible for the health manager and the champions and the local facilitators. And then they use that data to target their trainings. The data can also be directly feedbacked to each provider, and it can be used for research and benchmarking between facilities. I said that our continuous quality improvement methodology was based on the circle of learning, and here you see an illustration of that formula. Healthcare quality improvement statistics in Safer Birds is ensured because the data is easily accessible, as I just showed you. Knowledge acquisition is achieved through the training, and we always make sure that the training is consistent with the national guidelines. Skills proficiency is achieved through self-regulated frequent skills training by each of the different healthcare workers. And our preliminary data shows that more than 150,000 individual skills training have been conducted. And that means 2 times per week per healthcare workers on average. And I think that is quite amazing when you know how understaffed they are. When all the providers have the skills, that they know how to operate different things, do different things, they can start to train together in team simulations. And the team simulations are led by the facilitators. I think this is really the bridge over to clinical care, because in team simulations, you can practice on situation awareness, on urgency, on decision-making, on communication, and then the actions. And all these things are brought up in the debriefing after the actual simulation. In Safer Birds, they have been able to conduct team simulation every second week on average. And again, I think that is amazing, knowing how understaffed they are. Everything you learn must then be translated into the clinical care, because here is where the impact is. So far, we see that there is a difference, a variation among the 30 sites in how well they have managed to implement all the different components of the circle. And we see that the better they are, the better the survival. So actually, this circle of learning can be looked upon as a circle of increasing impact. And what is the impact? This graph shows the combined number of newborn deaths. And our program was implemented in a step wedge manner. So every vertical line that you see here means that a new region starts implementation. And you see how mortality is steadily decreasing as we start implementation in another region. And then after full implementation, it flattens out. Overall, there is a 45% reduction in newborn deaths. And please, please be aware that this is still unpublished preliminary data. I show it to you. But here comes the big, big surprise. Maternal mortality per 100,000 births. And you see, and I mean, that's because of your colleagues. It's nurse midwives who has, through the training, been empowered to do the right things when it is needed to do the right things, not waiting for a doctor who never appear. So we have received additional funding from the World Bank, $8.5 million to scale it up as in a phase 2, which is now ongoing. So in summary, what makes simulation work? You need to have local ownership from early planning and throughout implementation. You need to train local facilitators or champions that can drive in situ team training and the culture change. And you need access to data, your own data. That is the motivating force, and that can really guide your continuous quality improvement. You need to establish ongoing mentorship and supporting supervision, and then system for equipment maintenance and reprocessing. Over the first phase of Safer Births, we estimate that around 1,000 lives have been saved, and one of them is taboo.
Globally, bleeding after birth is a leading cause of maternal death. The Safer Birth Band of Care is a program aimed at reducing newborn and maternal mortality. After program implementation, we are seeing that maternal death can be reduced by more than 50%.
Kwa sababu tulikuwa tuna changamoto sana ya vifo vya mama na mtoto huko nyuma, lakini baada ya kuanza umekuwa ukifanya hizi simulation course on job training. Kwa hiyo watumishi wameweza kupata hizo skills na wameweza kuwa wamekuwa competent. Sasa wanaweza kufanya hizi interventions za haya maeneo ya huduma ya mama na mtoto vizuri na kwa wakati.
Tulianza kutekeleza mradi wa SBC mwezi wa 8 mwaka 2021. Tumeweza kupunguza vifo vitokanavyo na uzazi kwa karibia 50% hadi sasa. Watoa huduma tunaweza kufanya mazoezi ya pamoja kila wiki ili kujengeana uwezo na kuongeza ujasiri katika kuhudumia wamama wanaopata changamoto zitokanazo na uzazi. Na hili ni muhimu kwa sababu tunakutana na wateja wengi wanaopata changamoto zitokanazo na uzazi.
Healthcare workers who were trained using the Safer Birth Band of Care have been able to save more lives like taboos.
Alikuja kutoka zahanati kama PPH, ametokwa na damu nyingi sana na walishindwa kutoa kondo la nyuma la senta. Bahati nzuri tulikuwa tumeshafanya mazoezi ya namna ya kutoa placenta ambayo imekwama, kwa hiyo tukawa tuna jinsi. Nilikuwa nafurahi sana kumwona mama yuko vizuri.
Kwa kweli nashukuru akina dokta mapokezi walionipokea, walinisaidia sana kwa huduma zao. Asanteni.
Here is our collaborating partners, and I have no conflict of interest to declare. Asante sana.
Are you going to be around? Are you going to be around here for the exhibit and everything? For those of you who can work up your courage to approach her, right? She's going to be around during the exhibits when they're open, and if you want to speak to someone who is changing the world, like we do as nurses, but in a bigger way, you'll have the opportunity. She is going to be available. Let's give another warm round of applause. Now, you know those little girls and boys who have those dreams of helping and saving the world at an early age? Some of them just make it happen, and for sure, that's exactly what you have done. Congratulations, and thank you again. Well, now I just have a few important announcements. I don't know how important they could be compared to what we just heard, but as we conclude today's opening session, last week you were emailed Navigating the Summit. And for someone who has no sense of directions, it's something very important, these information packets. The packet contained a lot of helpful information, perhaps most importantly to you, information related to receiving your CEUs. Ta-da! As you should have already read and experienced, you must scan your badge prior, that means before, to entering every session. To receive credit, you also need to scan your badge. Now, this is not like scanning it a second time, but it has to be within 10 minutes of the start of each session. So you got to make sure you do that. You will not be able to scan your badge at the end of the session. So if you don't scan your badge before the session and that 10-minute period, you will not be able to scan it after that. Additionally, only scan your badge one time during the session. Just listen for the beep. It means you've been accepted. It's your competency assessment tool. Scanning your badge twice will invalidate the scan, and you will not be listed in the attendance list to receive credit. This goes for both the concurrent sessions and for the wonderful selected general sessions that will be held in this room. The NLN is unable to retroactively scan you into any session. So please, 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 please don't forget. And colleagues, hold each other accountable, remind one another, be kind to each other. Somebody who is obviously out of it, kind of pat them on the shoulder and say, you can't scan it but once. And so help them, help each other. This is a collaborative endeavor. Now, this is important because your unique CEU evaluation will also be tied to the sessions for when you scan yourself in. You will receive an email following the summit with a link to complete your online evaluation and download your certificate. You will have 60 days. I don't know why 60, but you will have 60 days to complete this process to receive credit for the summit. So please complete it right away. Also, if you haven't already done so, please download the NLN Summit mobile app, sponsored by Ersdal Medical. Just search for NLN events in the Apple Store or Google Play. With the app, you can stay up to date with the latest announcements, find your way around the summit schedule, and engage with other attendees through this social wall. Finally, it's not too soon to start planning for next year. Next summit, the NLN 2025 Education Summit will be held on September 17th through the 19th in Orlando, Florida. Information about abstracts will be on nln.org soon, so please go ahead and save the date. And now it is time for the opening reception, exhibits, and posters. Thank you again to Nightingale College for sponsoring the opening reception. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.